Armed and Dangerous for the Xbox, Dragonball Z Budokai 2 for the PlayStation 2. And in Versus, it's WW Smackdown Here Comes the Pain against WW Raw 2. First game we're going to talk about is Gotcha Force. This is from Capcom, and it's for the GameCube. What'd you think of this one?
I think there's one thing you can say about all these style video games. You're going to have real cheesy voiceovers.
Right.
Really bad 80s rock music.
You got that, yeah.
And, you know, not much of an interesting storyline for someone like myself.
Right.
Although that's not to say that people aren't going to enjoy this game.
I picked up Gotcha Force, and it said Tommy Tellerico all over it. I mean, this game was screaming your love. It's kind of like a cross between Virtual On or Transformers and Pokemon. Because what you're doing is you're collecting all of these little cute little toy robots and toy little action figure things.
Doesn't sound very exciting.
And then you jump into battles with other people, and then you can collect theirs if you win the battle. So
I'll tell you, my problem I had with the game, though, was not necessarily, okay, yeah, the content, not exactly to my liking.
Right.
The camera angles, it was very difficult to tell who's hitting you from what angle. And like your enemies are like kind of circled, and you can hit the button to kind of, you know, focus in on which enemies you want to be attacking. But that being said, the gameplay itself, it just seemed like it was a total, like, you know, button mashing, swinging the camera angle. Like at one point, I was just like hitting all the buttons, and it was just like, all over the screen.
Absolutely.
I'm like, what the hell is going on?
It's absolutely nuts. But I actually kind of dug that for a little while.
You know, and you can fly up. You know, you can fly up your little mech thingy.
I like the fact that there were different toys. You know, there's all these different sort of characters with different abilities, different moves. You have like cowboy robot types. You've got knights in shining armor kind of thing. Then you have the traditional sort of Transformer style robots.
Well, I like the fact that you kind of have this whole team of people.
Force.
So when you go into battle, you have like, you know, 7 or 8 people. It's almost like some kind of like weird Tekken tournament mode or something.
I like that, yeah.
Where you come in, and so once one guy gets eliminated, it goes to your next guy, and then you keep going until your team's finished. And you can play not only against the computer, but against other players as well. So you kind of get like 4 teams all going at once.
Yes, you can have up to 4 people playing.
That element is cool.
I mean, this is certainly no technological breakthrough. It's not so innovative that it stops traffic, but it's fun for a while. And if you're looking for one of those, you know, giant robot type games, you get a mini robot game here. I'm going to give Gotcha Force 7 out of 10.
All right, I'm giving it a 5.
On the positive side, there are lots of little robots and action figures to collect. You can make a cool collection of different characters to go into battle with. And although this looks like a cutesy little game, the action in this thing is actually quite intense.
On the negative side, the content wasn't very appealing to me. I had a lot of problems with the camera angles, and the voice acting and audio quality just wasn't up to par.
Next game we're going to talk about is Armed and Dangerous. This is developed by Planet Moon. It's from LucasArts for the Xbox and the PC. What did you think of this one?
Well, before Planet Moon, they were actually the original development team for an old game on the PC and PlayStation called MDK.
That's correct.
If you remember that game when they worked at Shiny. This game is a lot like MDK. It has a lot of elements, go figure. The comedy and the animations and the character are extremely well done, just like they were in MDK. I like being able to, like, you know, get weapons and go into, like, sniper mode, which these guys kind of invented when they did MDK.
Right.
But what's cool is you have a couple of teammates with you as well, so that they kind of are helping you out in the quest. Best part of the game, though, they got these penguins, they're about yay tall. Shooting the penguins in the head.
There you go with the shooting the penguins. I love my penguins. And
come on, you were trying to save the penguins?
Talk about all the other characters. I think this is great. You play a team called the Lionhearts, and you're only ever in control of a character named Roman, who's great. He's got this mask over his face, and he's got a cool kind of tough attitude. But you also get these great guys. You get this little mole called Jonesy, and you have this giant robot that looks like he was built by ancient Roman people or something like that.
Show me your papers, now!
You don't need to see our papers.
We don't need to see your papers.
Good. You're,
Quick! What should I say to them? I'm running out of power!
Vic, what should he say to us? He's running out of power.
Tell them they're both teapots. No Scottish miners. Look, just tell them we're not the ones they're looking for.
Awesome characters. You
wanted to
can't
play
play
them.
them.
You wanted to play
can't.
them.
And there's no
It's Armed and
multiplayer.
Dangerous too.
Armed and Dangerous 2, sure. But in Armed and Dangerous 1, I want to play these guys, and you can't.
I like the sound design, and all of the sound effects are in 5.1.
What is LucasArts feeding their audio engineers?
Really good stuff.
Great stuff.
The music was well done. It's kind of like got this whole Celtic vibe going on, which you don't hear a lot of in this style of game.
And the voice acting's awesome. There's this one funny scene that they completely rip off the Tauntaun bit in Empire Strikes Back.
He's freezing. We gotta warm him up or he'll die. No problem. Here's a little trick I learned back in Kalios during the Lyme-Dixon War. Oh, good idea, mate. What? I've seen this done before. He'll split open the dead beast's stomach and stick Rexus amongst the warm entrails. Should keep him warm for at least a day.
Right, I'll be off here vomiting.
No, that's not necessary. Just stick it in there.
It's great stuff.
How can you not like that?
Lots of tongue-in-cheek stuff all the way through.
Shooting penguins and a guy running with this guy sticking out his ass.
It's amazing.
They don't get better
And
than that.
I really like the cleverness with the weapons. You have a shark gun where you can actually shoot sharks. You'll see the fin going through the ground,
Right.
and it'll pop up and grab a bad guy and eat him. I love the topsy-turvy bomb where you stick it in the ground and you spin it,
right.
and the whole thing turns upside down and the characters fall.
It almost felt like Call of Duty a little bit, you know, like playing that game and you're in this massive
It is
war.
manic.
You can get on different weapons as well and
Yes.
then play in first-person mode.
Of course, it has that wave after wave of little sort of small baddie, and then
Yeah,
you have the
that's-
boss battles that you have to deal with.
I think that's one of the problems with the game, though, is that, I mean, it's got a lot of cool new weapons and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you're always just firing at stuff and
Yes.
trying to kill it, and it's like wave after wave.
And the other problem that we have with this game is that it's definitely no state of the art in terms of visuals, you know, or in presentation. If you could have played the other characters and there was maybe some multiplayer, maybe some Xbox Live or PC Online gameplay,
That would have been great,
this
Xbox Live.
would have made a big difference for this game. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm giving it an 8. On the positive side, there's really cool Celtic vibe music and 5.1 audio. It's a very simple game to get into, easy to control, and lots of weapons. And the animations and deaths are quite entertaining.
On the negative side, this has a bunch of great characters in the Lionhearts, but you can only play as one of them. There's no multiplayer in here. The game does get a little repetitive after a while, and even though there's lots of fun stuff in this game, it really isn't a technical marvel. We're still shopping for anime. We're coming right back with Dragon Ball Z. You know what? In space, nobody can hear you jump for joy while you're playing Metroid Zero Mission. This is another Samus Aran classic from Nintendo for the Game Boy Advance. What's cool about this is that it's a retelling of the NES version of Metroid. The first time we ever saw Metroid, this is like a revamped version of that with Game Boy Advance enhanced graphics and audio. So you've got all kinds of really cool looking bosses, lots of bad guys to beat up on. They've added a Metroid Prime art style to the whole experience, so some of the menu screens look like they've been ripped out of the GameCube. You come up to holographic blocks and they're glowing just like they do from the GameCube game. Samus's abilities change a little bit as you go through the game. They actually added a grip element, a power grip element, so now the level design has changed accordingly. It isn't just exactly the same as the NES level design. So if you played that game, you can still pick this one up and have a new experience. Now, one of the things the Metroid games always have is a lot of retraversal. You gain new abilities, and all of a sudden you have a new weapon or a new acrobatic ability, and you can reach into new areas, uncover new entrances, and keep exploring. The map screen's real easy to understand. I love all of the sort of little hints and secrets that dive back into the Metroid history as you work your way through the game. You even can unlock the original classic NES game in here. And if you hook this game up to Metroid Fusion on another Game Boy Advance, you can look through a Metroid art gallery. Very cool stuff. Really impressed with Nintendo for bringing this game out. Looks great, sounds great, plays great. You're going to keep this in your Game Boy Advance for a long time. Metroid Zero Mission, 9.5 out of 10. Awesome game. Hey, check it out. I found a Dragon Ball Z anime
It says
DVD.
Dragon Balls.
That's pretty cool. Which is kind of fitting because we're going to talk about Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2.
Stupid name.
For the PlayStation 2. This is from Atari.
This is what I want to know. The whole game, you're searching to get the dragon's balls.
No, the Dragon Balls.
What did this dragon ever do to somebody that that everybody wants his balls? I don't understand. I mean, the poor son of a gun, and the dragon's balls, they look like bowling balls.
All right. Basically, what we're talking about is a Dragon Ball Z game that is a fighting game, not unlike a Tekken or a Soul Calibur or a Virtual Fighter. And what they've done is they've taken the engine from Dragon Ball Z Budokai, the first one. They've tweaked it a little bit, added some stuff. Now we've got the Dragon Ball Quest mode where you're actually, searching for the 7 Dragon Balls, and it's like a little board game, and you're
Dude's
whipping
got
around.
7 balls?
There's 7 of them. And there's also some new characters.
Now you play this Gookie guy. What's his name?
His name is Goku.
Right.
Goku. And they've got Piccolo and Raditz and all of these crazy characters, which to me, and I'm still a Dragon Ball Z neophyte, my only exposure to this whole line of amazing anime.
To you what?
I've only seen these guys in the games. I love them.
Sometimes they do these special move things.
Yes.
And I could swear.
They're swearing at you?
They're swearing at me like, I'm like, what did that guy just say to me? I'll say this about the game. I mean, it's a huge, huge improvement, I thought, over the last game from a visual standpoint.
It looks really good.
The camera angles and the effects that they pull off in the fighting game.
I love that everybody's got a magical attack that's accessible and flashy and cool.
Why do the guys float in the air?
I don't know, but I like it.
Explain this.
I have no idea.
I don't like it because it doesn't make any sense. You push a button, and then just for no reason, the guy goes voop, and he's in the air. Is this a bug in the game?
No, it's part of the gameplay.
Could someone in the forums please go on there and start a thread and explain to me why guys with Dragon Balls float up in the air?
I think there are some cool additions, but I gotta say the gameplay. I didn't forget about Tekken while I was playing this.
Yeah, no kidding.
The gameplay is just not as rewarding as you want it to be.
Graphically, it's a really nice improvement.
You don't feel that tactile hit,
Of course
Sometimes
not.
you're pressing the buttons and you don't know if you're making a connection, and I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Exactly what I give it, a 6.5. On the positive side, if you're a Dragon Balls fan, you are going to fall in love with this one. The graphics and the effects in the fighting are unbelievable. And with the addition of new characters in quest mode, it's a big improvement over the last game.
On the negative side, what really needed improvement was the fighting dynamic. It's just not rewarding enough. There are only a few different arenas to fight in when you start the game, and some of the things the characters scream sound like they're swearing at you. What's up with that? Today in Hardware, we're going to be taking a look at a device that allow us to go back in time. These are the...
It's a time machine.
We're
reviewing a time machine.
Yes, we are.
Thumbs up.
These are called the TV games. They're all-in-one boxes from Jakks Pacific. And what it is, it's just basically a joystick with a cable that plugs into the TV and comes bundled with games. There are a bunch of different varieties. We took a look at the Namco one, which has Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Bosconian, Galaxian, and Rally X.
I gotta say, I mean, I really like the outside of this. I mean, it really looks like a little mini
arcade joystick.
It's very aesthetically pleasing.
Yes.
The control is really good.
It is actually really good.
One thing I was a little disappointed in, though, was that some of the sounds didn't make the translation.
Yeah, they're not perfect.
It does run off of batteries.
You need four AA
batteries to run it.
And there's no alternate power source. You have to have batteries. That's
Which is
a drag.
fine.
That's
Well,
a drag.
I love this thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I couldn't believe that they didn't put Galaga and Miss Pac-Man in there. The two most popular
Well, they got to have
Namco
that
games.
for TV games, Namco 2.
2? Is that what's happening there?
Yeah, so you're going to recommend the TV games from Jakks Pacific?
Absolutely going to recommend it.
Absolutely recommend it as well.
On the positive side, this thing not only looks great, but it's very well built. It's very simple to hook up and get going. Just plug in the video, plug in the audio, slap in some batteries. Graphically, these are perfect translations of the arcade games, and the price point, you can't beat it.
On the negative side, we missed Galaga and Ms. Pac-Man on the Namco TV games thing. It's kind of a drag that you only can use batteries and you can't plug in an adapter if you want to. And on the negative side, some of the sounds aren't exactly arcade perfect. All right, stick around. After this, it's Versus with 2 wrestling games.
Is there anything EA cannot do these days? I mean, this is unbelievable. The best soccer game ever on a portable system. I'm sorry, but it is. I'm talking about FIFA Soccer 2004 for the Game Boy Advance. So many soccer games out there you play, and it's just like, you know, the animations are stiff and the controls you're always fighting with. EA does it right, man. I mean, these controls are absolutely phenomenal. The characters are all 3D. The sound in this game, you hear the roar of the crowd. You get the goal, you know, all that stuff. You can, like, you know, do short kicks or long kicks. You can pass the ball. Use the top buttons to nudge guys off the ball, trip guys. You can also do a lot of special move kicks, like, you know, bicycle kicks and split scissor kicks in the air and head the ball in as well. The graphics, the sound, the gameplay, the options, all top-notch. Phenomenal job once again by EA. I'm talking about FIFA 2004. I'm giving it a 9.5. Now here's one for the Xbox called Quantum Redshift. Now Quantum Redshift was a lot like, you know, the F-Zero and Wipeout style games, but the graphics on this are absolutely stunning. The water and the reflections were just incredible. I mean, this is better graphics than F-Zero and Wipeout combined. They had that kind of cool electronica, techno vibe music going on as well. The blasters and the effects and the lighting and the speed on it was also really well done. You can play up to 4 players on, you know, the split screen thing like that, but who wants to play like that? I mean, you get a little thing, even if you got a big screen TV or things like that, no one ever plays that way. The weapons are amazing, the speed's amazing, the vehicles are amazing, never got its props. Xbox only, go check it out.
Welcome to Versus. Today we have 2 wrestling games for you. We've got WW Smackdown, Here Comes the Pain for the PlayStation 2, and we've got WW Raw 2 for the Xbox. Both of these games are from THQ.
I think we should do the whole Versus review in our wrestler voices.
I think that sounds like a great idea, Tommy. I'm gonna kick your ass. What'd you think of the graphics? I thought the graphics were incredible.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Okay, we're not going to do that because it hurts our throat. What did you think of the visuals for these 2 games?
Well, Smackdown definitely lays the Smackdown
on Raw.
On Raw, which is incredible because Smackdown is on the PlayStation 2, Raw is on the Xbox.
Right.
You'd think that the Xbox would have the graphic advantage here, but no, I say. The players are unbelievable in Smackdown. You can even see their back hairs.
I know.
Coming out, which is
a little creepy. One of the great things about Smackdown are all the different camera angles that are in the game. Much more dynamic. You're absolutely taken all around the ring. There's the Smackdown effects where you actually grab a guy and go into slow motion and do these killer kind of, you know, hurting type moves on everybody. Yeah. That's not to say that Raw's graphics are bad.
No, I will go and say
I don't think they are bad.
All the characters look like they have this glossy candy coated.
They do look a little more plasticky.
To play them or lick them.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
But they did have some realistic facial expressions. I thought The Rock looked great on both games, and some of the animations were a little bit smoother on Raw. But I think.
Dude. But you play the same game?
I did play both the games.
The animations on Raw.
I agree with you, though. There is a bit of a clunkiness before you get to those good animations.
So Smackdown gets the thumbs up for the graphics.
Absolutely.
How about gameplay?
Gameplay, Smackdown wins again. I think it's really putting the beat on Raw here. I agree. I think what's happened is we've got a much faster, much tighter feeling game in Smackdown. In Raw, I was just, you know, I felt like I was waiting for stuff to happen. I'd be pressing the buttons and everything would just take so long to do.
Now, Raw has Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
The Rock, like you said, and Triple H.
Rock looks good in both games.
I think it looks way better in SmackDown.
Both games allow you to create your own character, but the editor is so much better in SmackDown. You can do everything. You can completely tweak every kind of position on a person's head. You can make them look super realistic, or super cartoony with big clown hair
And the
or whatever.
women as well, you know,
Women.
you get massive breastages.
Yes, you do. You must have liked the fact that you can see the underwear on the girl with the
I mean,
skirt
what do you
when
think
she's
about that?
fighting.
I mean,
it's-
that's gold right there.
And actually, the gameplay in Smackdown, they actually have a bra and panties match where you can see the women fight to try to strip each other's clothes off.
Do I need to say any more at this point?
It's got Tommy written all over it.
You know, the amazing thing, though, is that I thought that Smackdown really captured the essence of wrestling. The way they even set up and walk into the rings, and you get the Rock videos and the sparks flying.
It all
just left me a little flat raw.
Felt like it wasn't finished. They're developed by two different studios. We've got Jakks on SmackDown, we've got Anchor on Raw, and definitely the Jakks game has much, much tighter gameplay. Let's talk now about the audio.
You want to know something I thought was interesting about all the wrestling games, these two especially?
Yes.
There's no color commentary going on throughout the wrestling matches, and that's one thing for people and fans of wrestling who watch wrestling. They always talk smack on each other, but neither game had that.
There's no performance, and I think THQ, if they're going to maintain this license, they got to go out and spend the money and get these wrestlers into sound booths. So overall, SmackDown.
Raw.
You like Raw better?
No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I was surprised.
I surprised him. Did you see that? He almost.
Shock.
What? Did you see that? You like that?
I didn't do that.
Who? Well, I give SmackDown a 7.5. Not a big wrestling fan, so I didn't really get into it that much.
I really like SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain. I would give that 8.5. Second favorite wrestling game after Def Jam Vendetta.
Raw, I thought was even worse than that. I give it a 5.5.
I didn't like Raw 2 at all. It's not a game I would ever play again. 4.5. And I guess it's pretty obvious. The clear winner this episode is SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain. Today on the show, we took a look at Gotcha Force from Capcom for the GameCube. Now, this is a cutesy-looking game that's action-packed, but cutesy might not be what everyone's looking for. On the Xbox, but it's also available for the PC, we looked at Armed and Dangerous from LucasArts. There's a great sense of humor and some very cool weapons in this game, but it's really not a technical showcase. On the PlayStation 2, we looked at Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. This is a big improvement over the first game, but the characters should wash their filthy mouths out with some soap. In Versus, we looked at WW Smackdown Here Comes the Pain for the PlayStation 2. This is a great wrestling game with lots of crazy over-the-top camera angles and super fast action. We looked at that one against WW Raw 2 for the Xbox. This wrestling game really let us down with cumbersome controls and gameplay that wasn't nearly as good as SmackDown. In hardware, we looked at the TV game system from Jakks Pacific, specifically the Namco one. This is a great-looking device with a killer collection of games. Definitely recommended. And on the Game Boy Advance, I reviewed Metroid Zero Mission. This is an absolute must-have for Game Boy Advance owners and Metroid maniacs like myself. Well, that's our trip to the anime store. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Man, I love pink-haired girls with really big breasts.
What are you looking at here?
It's anime, man.
Today in Hardware, we're taking a look at a device that allows us to go back in time. These are the...
It's a time machine.
It is a time machine, yes. And,
Marty, we gotta go back in time. It's your kids, Marty.
Really don't need to be seeing that right now.
Is that bad? Okay, here we go. All right.
It's your kids, Marty.
Okay, here we go. And some of the sound isn't exactly perfect, but only a few people would really care about that. Tommy,